Hi, everybody. I've had a lot of people ask me over the last couple of years to share my breastfeeding journey because it's quite unusual breastfeeding at my age. And I've actually just weaned my little girl last week. So our breastfeeding journey has come to an end, which means I might cry in this video. But I thought this is a really perfect time to finally make this video and to share with you the whole story. So for those of you who don't know me, hello, welcome to this channel. My name is TJ. I'm the mother to a gorgeous little girl who on this channel we call Baby Star, although I probably should start calling her Little Star because she's no longer a baby. She's now 2 years and almost 3 months. And I had her by myself as a single mother by choice using donor sperm, but because I was older, I also used donor eggs. So she's a double donor baby. And I'm currently pregnant with my second. For those of you who don't know, I'm almost 27 weeks pregnant, so in a couple of days I'll be in the third trimester. It's completely crazy. And this one is a little boy and is from the same donors, so they're full siblings. So it's very exciting, and hopefully I'll get to breastfeed with him as well. So I thought today is just a perfect time to share with you my breastfeeding journey with little Star, Baby Star. And guys, I do have to apologize. This is going to be a long video because this has been something that's been 2 years of my life, 2 years and 2 months of my life, and a lot has happened. I can't just say, yeah, breastfeeding was great. That's all. That's my story. It's not. There's a lot of pieces to it. And it's very close to my heart, and I'm going to have to share it fully. I either don't share it at all or I share it fully. So if you're interested, stick around for the whole story. But if you just want a summary, I can't give you that. It's the whole story or nothing. And one of the other reasons why this video is going to be very long is I'm going to be sharing a lot of things I learned about breastfeeding as I went on, things that helped me solve challenges I was having. And I'm hoping by going into it fully in detail, you'll really have a lot of resources and a lot of things that you can go and look up that helped me, that may be able to help you in your breastfeeding journey as well. So my breastfeeding journey really had 4 stages. The first stage is the newborn phase when she was in the hospital with me after I had my cesarean. And then the next phase was about the first 6 weeks of breastfeeding at home, which was actually extremely challenging and painful. And then the next phase went for 18 months and it was absolutely glorious and blissful and easy, and I loved it, and I'll tell you all about that. And then the final stage was the last 6 months breastfeeding her while I've been pregnant, and that was a total nightmare. So, and obviously the weaning, I'll share about the weaning and how we finished our journey. So it's been like this. Most of it was divine and glorious, but there were some real challenges. So I just want to share them with you. Now, before I start my story, I just want to address something that I get asked a lot, and it's about the fact that I use donor eggs. And sometimes women are worried that if they're using donor eggs, or even if they did IVF with their own eggs, they're worried that they might not be able to breastfeed because the pregnancy didn't start naturally. And this concern is obviously bigger for women who are considering using donor eggs, because there's obviously a larger degree of medical intervention, and sometimes women are worried, well, will my body be able to create milk for this baby that's not really my baby? Well, I just want to pause you there and say it really is your baby. You know, it's being put in your tummy when it's got like a few cells. You can't even see it. You need a microscope to see it. Like, it's the size of a dot. You are then growing that entire baby for 9 months. And if your body is capable of growing a baby from a dot to a full fetus that's ready to be delivered at 40 weeks, your body is capable of feeding that baby. So just remember that. If your body can grow the baby, your body can feed the baby, because all the hormones and things that have to happen to grow a baby are much bigger than what has to happen to produce milk, right? So just that should reassure you. Now, that doesn't mean all women can breastfeed, but that's got nothing to do with whether it's donor eggs or IVF. Some women can't breastfeed because the baby can't latch properly, or the baby has tongue-tie issues, or the mother has inverted nipples or whatever. But none of that is to do with IVF. None of that is to do with using a donor egg. So please don't worry about that. And I can definitely just share my story, which was that I breastfed completely normally like any other woman. And also, please don't worry about the age part of it. If you're someone who's watching this channel because you're thinking of having a baby over 40 or over 45 or even over 50, if your body can grow the baby, your body can feed the baby. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if you're 20 years old or you're 50 years old. Your body can grow the baby, your body can feed the baby. So just really remind yourself that if you're worrying about it. So the first phase of my breastfeeding journey happened right from the very beginning. So I shared in a recent video, and if you haven't seen it, you can see it here, about my whole birth story and my cesarean and how that went. And I didn't really share much what happened after the birth and the 4 days in the hospital, other than to say it was really helpful being there and having the nurses show me how to change nappies, change diapers, and all that stuff. But my breastfeeding journey started pretty well because I had what's called a gentle cesarean. So the baby kind of wriggled out in her own time, and they put her straight up over the curtain onto my chest. So she wasn't like taken off to have intervention or be cleaned up or anything. It was just really like a natural birth. They just put her straight onto my chest. And in that very first second, she just latched straight onto my boob. Like, she just knew how to do it. It was unbelievable. They just put her there and she just went, drink. I was completely shocked and totally madly in love and just watching, and this is just complete awe. This little tiny person is like this big on my boob, drinking like a champion. So that was amazing. Went off to a really good start. Now, obviously, at that point, it's only colostrum. The first few days, your breasts are producing colostrum, not milk. So it's hard for the baby to gain weight, but they're getting all these nutrients that they need. Colostrum is not as filling as milk. So in my case, my baby was super healthy, had a really high score when it came out, but she was quite red, dark red, which I thought meant she was really healthy and robust, which she was. But it turns out the red can sometimes be a sign of jaundice. And so as the days go on, they can start to turn more yellow. And so that's what happened with her. She started to turn more yellow. And the only way to get rid of that is through drinking lots of milk, and it flushes the jaundice out of the system. Or they can give the baby formula, or they can put it on a special light machine, which gets rid of the jaundice. But in my case, we were just waiting for my milk to come in, knowing that the milk would flush the jaundice out of her system. And so the first 4 days for me were like waiting for my milk to come in, because we really didn't see the jaundice kick in for a couple of days, but then it really did. And I was like, okay, we just got to hope that my milk comes in quickly enough. Otherwise, we will obviously have to do one of the other strategies, give her formula or put her on a light machine. But luckily, my milk kicked in on about day 4. And that was funny what happened. But in the lead up to that, in those 4 days, honestly, it was so beautiful. I was just lying in this hospital bed with machines everywhere, and they come in every few hours to test you and they test the baby. Because they had gestational diabetes, they're testing my blood sugar, they're testing the baby's blood sugar, they're sticking little pins into us and testing stuff. And I just was lying there with this baby on my chest. It wasn't all smooth sailing. I mean, I don't remember it that clearly, but I had a diary, the journal that I was keeping, and I just went and read that this morning. And there were some bumps. Like in the beginning, it was hard for her because she was trying to get milk out and there was no milk. There was only colostrum. And there were times where she would cluster feed for 3 or 4 hours in a row. And then there'd be other times where she couldn't quite figure it out. Mainly, I couldn't figure it out. I didn't really know what I was doing. And that's why I was really glad that there were nurses. I had read a whole lot of stuff about breastfeeding. I had bought a program called the Thompson method, which people swear by. None of that really helped me very much. It was really the nurses in the hospital, because every 6 hours you get a different nurse, and they would say, try it like this, hold her like this, put her here or put her there. And I sort of slowly figured it out. And then there was one day when I was finally well enough to get up out of the bed, because you're in a lot of pain, you're on a lot of medication when you first have a cesarean. I was finally able to get up and sit in a chair in a little bit sort of semi-reclined position. And that's when it started to really work better, and she was drinking more, and it was good. But still, I only had colostrum, so I couldn't really give her what she needed, which was the milk. So then on day 4, exactly I think 4 days after she was born, to almost a minute, my milk came in. But what was funny was I kept saying to the nurses, has my milk come in yet? Has my milk come in yet? Has my milk come in yet? Because I didn't know what it looked like or what it smelled like or what it felt like or anything. And they'd say, no, trust me, you'll know. Trust me, you'll know. And I remember thinking, what are they talking about? And then on day 4, I think I was well enough at that point to get up and have a shower. I mean, you're bleeding, you're taking painkillers, like it's pretty hard. But I got up and I could sort of hobble to the shower, and I took a shower, and I came out and I was like, hang on a sec, what's happening? And my boobs completely changed. Like, I don't have very large breasts. Like, I'm probably like a C cup. I always have been. My pregnancy, they did not get bigger. I just still a C cup. All my bras fit me through my whole pregnancy. I'm not one of those women who got giant boobs when I was pregnant. Not at all. I just put on fat everywhere except my boobs. But when suddenly my milk was in, I suddenly had like D cup or E cup boobs. But it wasn't that. They went from being normal, soft, squishy boobs to like someone had put them in a gel pack and stuck them in the freezer, and they're just like round, hard boobs. Like you could like knock on them. It was weird. I was like, what is going on? Oh, that must be what they mean when they say the milk's. And it's so funny because now, I've just weaned my daughter last week after breastfeeding her for 2.5 years. And, my boobs have been soft through that whole time. It's only within those first few weeks that you have the really gorge boobs. And so for me, breastfeeding is something you do with soft boobs. So it's going to be weird when I have my second one and suddenly go back to these swollen and good boobs. But yeah, the baby just needs so much milk in those first couple of months that you have to have a lot of milk in there. From the second she went onto my boobs, once the milk had come in, her jaundice just disappeared over the next day. It's gone. And they let me go home because she was fine and all her blood sugar scores were fine and everything's fine and she was latching really well and it was all good. So then we entered phase 2. So phase 1 was just a bit bumpy because of the jaundice, but she was pretty good at latching and all of that. And I just didn't really know what to do with positions and everything. But once I figured that out, we were fine. Okay, so I just wanted to pause at the story about my breastfeeding journey to just tell you a couple of things that you might find helpful. If you are in a situation that's a little bit different from the norm, let's say maybe you're a solo mom or you're doing this by yourself, maybe you're at an older age, over 45, or maybe for some reason or other you're having to use donor eggs, you don't quite relate to all the normal pregnancy stories or motherhood stories around you, I have some materials that can support you on that journey. I have a series of seminars that I've recorded for solo mums, and I'm about to do some for egg donor mums as well, but I've currently done the solo mums, and it's a series of support seminars. And they're seminars where I give you so many tips and strategies for things that have helped me do this by myself and make my life easy. How to look after a newborn baby by yourself, how to choose a sperm donor, what to tell other people about your choice to have a baby by yourself, the fears that you might have about being a solo mum. I've addressed all of those. I've talked about strategies to help you let go of the dream of doing this with a partner. I've talked about how to get work done at home while you're looking after a baby by yourself. I've just answered a lot of questions. It's basically everything I wish somebody had told me before I started on this journey. Each seminar is like 20 to 40 minutes. They're very detailed. You can just listen to them while you're driving in your car. And I've made them as a labor of love to help other women who are now in the position I was in before baby Star was born. And I really, really hope you'll listen to them because they will help you. As I said, if you're not a solo mum, but you're thinking of using a donor egg or doing it at an older age, I'm currently preparing to record a whole lot of seminars for you too. So once they're done, I'll put them under this video. Okay, let's get back to my breastfeeding journey. So then we were at home and I was there by myself for the first 3 weeks. And then my dad came to help for a few weeks, but mostly I was there by myself for the first few months, other than having visits from midwives or a doula visiting or a postpartum nurse coming to check on me or, a few friends dropped by. But most of the time I was by myself and I was just in this little bliss bubble because my baby tended to sleep a lot, as all newborns do, but she was a really good sleeper. So she would just sleep 3 hours and I would just get time to sleep or have a shower or whatever. But then she would wake up and feed, and at that time they feed a lot when they're newborns. Like sometimes they cluster feed for hours. In the beginning I just used to gaze at her for like an hour. I was so in love with gaze at her, but as the weeks went on I wasn't just going to gaze for an hour every time because I had things to do. So I started while she was feeding, I would be texting someone, or I'd be doing a Facebook post in my baby village group, or I wasn't making YouTube videos at that point, but I still had friends to catch up with, or I would just put Netflix on my iPad with earplugs in so it didn't disturb the baby and just watch a show for an hour because there's lots of feeding. And she was really good at latching. We had no problems with that. She was getting lots of food. There were times when I needed to burp or times when she had a bit of wind. But I had done this amazing thing, which I highly recommend you do if you're about to have a baby. I had studied something called Dunstan Baby Language, and I must remember to put a link down the bottom to Dunstan Baby Language. There's basically 5 different sounds that a baby makes, and that's it. And those 5 sounds let you know if they need a nappy change, a diaper change, milk, to be burped, or if they have gas, or if they're tired. That's it. Once you understand that, you know what your baby needs, and suddenly you have a really easy baby because you're always meeting their needs. And I noticed actually, even in that first day in the hospital, I noticed her making the sounds, and I was like, oh my God, it's actually true. She needs milk now, or she needs to sleep now, or she needs to be burped now. So I think that's one of the reasons why my journey with her was so easy from the beginning, because I always could recognize what she needed. Whereas a lot of people find babies such a complete mystery. Because, well, what does my baby want? Why are they crying? And they get really stressed. But I knew because I had studied it, and I really studied it. Like I made myself little note cards of the 5 sounds, and I really watched the YouTube videos. I learned how to do it. There's a little course you can buy. I can't even remember where I found it. If I can find it in my old notes, I'll stick it in the description. But you might be able to just find it on YouTube. But they're very simple, the 5 sounds. can't remember them now, otherwise I'd say them, but it's 2 years ago. She was telling me when she needed to be burped, she was telling me when she had wind, she was telling me when she was hungry. So that made it much easier, and she had a good latch. So, the midwife or the doula would come check on me every few days, and they'd say, yeah, she's doing well. But here's a big but, and I really want you guys to listen to this because this can make a huge difference to your breastfeeding journey. I started to get very, very sore. And I'm not talking about the initial soreness. Like you have initial soreness when you've never breastfed before because your nipples aren't used to being wet all the time and being sucked on, and they can be a bit sore and tender. You need to put a bit of lanolin on or a bit of stuff on. That's normal, and that kind of goes away within a week or two. And I was expecting that, and I just grit my teeth through that, and it was fine. But what started to happen was in the next stage, when I was at home by myself, I started to feel real pain. And it wasn't just my nipples, it was my whole breast tissue just felt bruised. It felt like my whole breast tissue was bruised. And I had friends come over, and they told me later that it was hard to watch. Like, I'd be breastfeeding, we'd be chit-chatting, and I'd be going like this. Or my toes, if I was trying to pretend it wasn't hurting, they could see my toes going like this. Because it was really painful, and it was getting more and more and more painful every day, and I did not understand what was happening because I thought I was doing everything perfectly. So what I was doing was, she was asleep in the bassinet next to me, and I'm by myself in my big king-size bed. My bed's really, really high. So she was in the bassinet there. I'd lean down, I'd pick her up. I had this breastfeeding pillow, one of those beautiful breastfeeding pillows you're supposed to get. It's like a flat, my best friend or something. They're called my breast friend or something. Anyway, and I had, of course, researched that, and I bought it in the color I liked with the waterproof protector on it and everything. It's so good. You put it there and you tie it behind you. I'd rest her on that. She'd be on my boob. And then my hands were free because she was being supported by the pillow, and I could do my Facebook or watch a thing on Netflix. And I had my little water bottle set up. I've done a video a long, long time ago about the things that helped me most in the first few months with a baby by myself, and I'll put a link to that up there. And one of the things was a freaking amazing water bottle that's designed for quadriplegics, and I just had it sat there the whole time, and I could just, without needing my hands, I could just, because it has this long cord thing you put in your mouth. You don't need to hold the water bottle. So I had what I thought was the perfect setup. I had my little creams, I had my little wipey thing for if she spilled any milk. My daughter never really did any spitting up or vomiting or anything. Like, I had all these beautiful burp cloths and burp towels, and she just never needed them. So I was very lucky about that. I guess maybe because I was understanding her signals, I knew when to burp her, I knew when she had gas, I knew all of that. It never really became a problem. Anyway, so I thought it the perfect setup. So I could not understand why I was having this extreme pain. She had a good latch, everything's set up beautifully. I'm doing everything I've read in all the books and everything in my course. Anyway, this went on and it was getting worse and worse. My whole breast was so sore. It was just like agony. And I was like, I don't know if I can keep breastfeeding much longer. Like, we're at about the 6-week point, and I really wanted to breastfeed her for at least a year. So anyway, I called a lactation consultant that had been highly recommended in our local area. The reason I called her was to see if she could fit me for some nipple shields, because I thought maybe if there's something covering my boob and the baby's breastfeeding through this nipple plastic thing or metal thing, that she won't be hurting my boob as much. Maybe that will help. So I called her for that reason. She came over and she tried to fit me for a nipple shield, but she said, I don't think that's the problem. I think it's the position you're in. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm sitting up beautifully. I've got this breastfeeding pillow. She said, that's the problem. That's not a natural breastfeeding position. I was like, what? This is the bit I want you to all hear. It's not a natural breastfeeding position to sit up with your baby lying on their side on a flat surface like a breastfeeding pillow. You're actually designed to be reclining back like this. So you're semi-reclined a bit further than I can't go that far back because this is a straight couch. Well, let's say I was like this and your baby's like that, which is why it worked really well in the hospital. Because in the hospital I was lying down or I was reclined in a chair. But as soon as I got home, I was sitting up. So after she left, I was like, that can't be right. So I started researching it because I'm a researcher. And I started researching. It's called natural breastfeeding. What an original name. There's a whole movement out there to try and encourage women to do natural breastfeeding because guess what? These breastfeeding pillows were invented for bottle feeding because it's perfect to have your baby on it and give a bottle when you need your hand for the bottle. The baby's lying on the breastfeeding pillow, right? It's designed to support your baby when you're feeding a bottle. It's not designed for natural breastfeeding without a bottle. But of course, companies are trying to make money, so they then try and sell it to breastfeeding women. and everyone around the world has bought this idea that you need a special breastfeeding pillow. And so I'm sure there's lots of other women, not just me, who have had a lot of unnecessary pain in their breastfeeding journey because they were breastfeeding their children on one of these pillows and puts them flat. And the reason is the baby's weight is being taken by this pillow. And so the baby's not sort of falling onto your breast with gravity. The baby has to cling to your breast because they're kind of leaning back. They're leaning away from your boob. So they have to clamp on to get milk out. So I have this thing clamping onto me. No wonder my whole breast tissue was bruised. But as soon as I removed the pillow and just lay back, all I did was, instead of sitting up straight, I just put some pillows behind me that made me recline like this, like a pillow there, a pillow there, a pillow there. I just lay back like I was a princess feeding me grapes, and my baby just lay on me, and now gravity was helping her. She was on me. She didn't have to clamp onto me. She was already just lying on me face down, like when you first give birth. Do you know what happened within a week? The pain took about a week for all the pain to gradually fade away, and then it was gone, and it never came back. It has never come back. Because I've never used that stupid pillow again. I've never sat up straight breastfeeding her again. I've always just reclined. I've been in a chair that leans back, or I've put a few pillows, or been in my car leaning back a bit. You know, it's actually really easy. So that solved the problem. So I highly recommend, don't get one of those breastfeeding pillows. You're going to want to buy that because they look beautiful and get all different colors and everyone's supposed to use it. But no, use that if you are bottle feeding. That's going to be a huge help. If you're not bottle feeding, just put some pillows behind you and lean back. If you need to put pillows under your arms, put pillows. I used to put pillows under my arms to support my arms. Okay, so I didn't have my hands free now because I have my hands on my baby, but I could still watch Netflix. Maybe I couldn't type, but I could watch Netflix. You know, I could still hold a phone. It was okay. In the beginning, I was like, what am I going to do? And I can't use my two hands. I've been so spoiled by, she's just resting on this pillow and I can do stuff. It's actually not about doing stuff. It's about letting your baby get milk in a way that's not painful. So I just had pillows under my arms. I lay back on pillows. I reclined. And honestly, for the next 18 months, it was brilliant. So now we were breastfeeding without problems. I'm going to move into phase 3 of my breastfeeding journey, which was the beautiful 18 months I had as baby Star was growing older and older, and I will share that in the next part of this video because there are lots of different facets to that as we started to introduce food, and there were times where I was feeding her to sleep and times where I wasn't, and using a dummy or pacifier or not, all those things. I'll talk about all of that in part 2 of this video. So over here, you can watch part 2 of this video as soon as I upload it, and until then, you'll be able to see something else. So I really hope you find that fascinating because there's a lot of gold in that second part of this video, that lots of tips you're going to be able to learn about breastfeeding. See you in the next video.